The Skyhawk was fitted with one of the first U.S. countermeasures dispenser, the AN/ALE-29A, which consisted of two dispenser bays, located on the forward and aft sections of the rear fuselage, plus a sequence programmer located on a ventral bay and accessible only to the ground crew. Each dispenser bay could load either 30 flares, to counter infrared-seeking missiles, or 30 chaff packages, to confuse radar-guided missiles. By default, on DCS the forward bay, number 1, carries chaff, while the aft bay, number 2, carries flares, but you can change this default while on the ground, using the rearm window. The Skyhawk was equipped with a first-generation radar warning set, the AN/APR-25A. This device was designed to provide 360-degree warning of S, C and X-band radar signals, giving the pilot oral and visual cues notifying when a radar was painting the aircraft. In addition, the Skyhawk was fitted with an AN/APR-27, which was a SAM launch warning set. This device detected the change in signals of the SA-2 radar, which occurred when a missile was fired. It provides the pilot with an oral and visual cue whenever a SAM is launched. On DCS, these radar warning devices detect any type of radar-guided missile. Tough, in reality they were designed mostly to counteract the SA-2. Finally, the Skyhawk was also equipped with the AN/ALQ-51A, a first-generation jammer. It used an automatic deception repeater against ground fire control radars, track-while scan radars, and SA-2 guidance systems. It was a primitive device and its effectivity was rather questionable. In DCS it doesn't seem to have any effect. We can ask the ground crew to modify the default chaff and flares loaded. This can only be done if we are on the ground, with engine stopped and canopy open. Press the / key to open the communications menu. Press F8. Ground crew. Press F1. Rearm and refuel. The rearm window will appear. Use the flare and chaff sliders to adjust their amount. Note that they can only be set in groups of 30. For this mission leave them at 30 flares and 30 chaff, so press the cancel button. While we are still in contact with the ground crew, that is, on the ground, engine off and canopy open, we can program the countermeasures dispenser by calling up the kneeboard, with right + Shift + K. By default, the Skyhawk's kneeboard will open on its weapons page. If not, use the arrow controls on the lower left of the kneeboard, to page through its contents. On the weapons page, you can specify the countermeasures automatic sequence dispensing feature, adjusting the following parameters. Burst. Quantity of packages, flare or chaff, released in a burst. Can be 1, 2, 3 or 4. Burst interval. Time interval between each package of a burst. Can be 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, or half a seconds. Salvos. Number of bursts on the sequence. Can be 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28 or 32. Salvo interval. Time interval between each salvo. Can be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 or 14 seconds. These values are cycled by pressing right Shift + right Alt + 4, 5, 6 or 7. For this mission, set these values as follows. Burst, 2. Burst interval, 0.2 seconds. Salvos, 8. Salvo interval, 2 seconds. Once programmed, hide the kneeboard with right + Shift + K. We will now cold start the aircraft by following the standard procedure. 1. External ground power. Connect. Bring up the communications menu, with the / key. Select.
Chief, turn on the ground power.
Ground crew. F2. Ground electric power. F1. Turn power on.
Ground power is now on.
2. Master press to test. Check. Press and hold the master test button to check APC, ECM, angle of attack indexer, wheels, labs, laws, IFF, fire, OBST, pilot advisory, armament advisory, radar altimeter, oil low, lights and circuits. 3. Throttle. Off. Check that both the 4. Engine starter switch. Depress to start. 5. At 5% RPM. Move the throttle to ignition, by right-clicking on it. 6. At 15% RPM, move throttle to idle, right-click on it again. Seven. Stabilized idle RPM, 56 to 58% at 20 degrees Celsius ambient temperature. 9. External electrical power and starting air. Disconnect. Bring up the communications menu with the / key. Select F8.
Copy.
Ground crew. F2. Ground electric power. F2.
Ground
10.
power is now off.
Canopy. Close by pulling the lever. Set the Doppler navigation radar to its C position. Set magnetic variation to 6 degrees east. Set the navigation computer to the D1 position, which core switch BDHI to its nav computer position. Your aircraft is ready to start the flight. Increase throttle and let the aircraft slowly move forward. Once the aircraft is moving, press the wheel brakes to confirm their operation. Release the wheel brakes and resume the taxi. Be careful of other traffic that may be near you. Good. Now turn left and proceed along the taxiway, towards the runway. Stop just short of the runway and then check that there is no air traffic about to land or take off. Unfortunately, the Skyhawk can't make use of the air traffic controller on DCS. If there is no traffic, enter the runway, align on its center and stop there. Refer to the takeoff checklist that is printed on the lower right of the instrument panel, beside the emergency generator handle. 1. Check trim. Elevator trim, 6 degrees nose up. Rudder, 0 degrees. 2. Seat harness. The shoulder. 3. Canopy. Confirm that the canopy is fully closed. 4. Flaps. Set to half extension. Press spacebar. 5. Speed brake. 6. Armament. Check that all. 7. Spoilers. Switch to armed, for sure based off. 8. Nose wheel steering. Set to normal. This completes the takeoff checklist. We will skip the engine fuel control test for brevity, as you already learned it on the carrier taxi and launch training mission. We are now ready for takeoff. Follow the usual procedure. 1. Hold wheel brakes, increase throttle to 90% RPM. Check instruments and alerts. If everything is well, release the brakes and accelerate to 100% RPM. 2. Reaching 135 knots, pull back softly on the stick until the aircraft nose begins to lift. 3. Once fully airborne, retract the landing gear. 4. Raise the flaps once over 170 knots. 5. Accelerate to climb speed. For this mission, fly at 350 knots. 6. Spoilers. Switch to off. You are over waypoint 1. Now, turn right towards waypoint 2, heading 280 degrees. Use the navigation computer. Its D1 position corresponds to this waypoint 2. For this mission, climb to 10,000 feet and cruise at 350 knots. Power on the radar warning receiver by right-clicking the highlighted switch. The RWR uses audio tones to alert you when a radar is tracking your aircraft. Currently, the sound you hear is the normal noise of an absent signal. Use the PRF knob to adjust this noise audio level, so that it can barely be heard. When a radar is detected, you will still be able to hear the warning signal. Next, power on the missile launch warning, by right-clicking the highlighted switch. The missile warning sound is different from the RWR audio cue, and its volume is adjusted with the missile alert ring knob. For now, set it to its maximum value. Rotate the ECM mode knob to its standby position, to allow it to warm up. It will take about 2 minutes, and then the standby light will turn off. Power on the countermeasures dispenser, by right-clicking the highlighted switch. The countermeasures can be manually dispensed by pressing the auto firing button. Each press of the button dispenses one salvo, based on the settings programmed onto the system by the ground crew. You can check the current settings on the weapons page of the kneeboard. As currently this button is not clickable, you have to use the Q key to press this button. Be sure to bind this command onto your HOTAS. We are near waypoint 2. We will enter the coordinates of waypoint 3 on position D2 of the navigation computer. Set the knob to D2. Enter the following coordinates. Latitude 44 degrees, 59 minutes, north. Longitude 35 degrees, 50 minutes, east. Press spacebar once they have been entered. Good. The waypoint 3 coordinates are now stored on D2. Now, set the knob back to D1 to continue navigating towards our current waypoint 2. We have reached waypoint 2. Select D2 on the navigation computer and then turn slightly left as directed by the BDHI. Note that the standby light has turned off, meaning that the ECM has warmed up and is ready to use. On this mode, the system is passive and does not emit. However, once the enemy has detected and fired upon us, you should then move the knob to the repeat position. This will activate the jammer to retransmit the detected signal to interfere with the SAM guidance. Let's now look at the countermeasures panel. The highlighted switch allows you to select from which bay the dispenser will drop next. Bay 1 usually contains chaff packages, while Bay 2 contains flares. The counters below display how many packages remain at each bay. The switch middle position, both, will drop simultaneously from both bays. For the next practice, set the switch to Bay 2, flares. Good. We will now practice manually dispensing countermeasures. Press the auto firing button, with the Q key, to dispense one salvo at flares. Note that the counter number 2 is reduced by 2, as we program the dispenser salvo quantity to 2. Each press of the button dispenses one salvo. We are now in external view. Press Q again, to observe how the flares release looks. The highlighted button activates the automatic dispense, according to the values that were programmed into the system before flight. On this mission, the auto program has these values. Burst 2. Burst interval 0.3 seconds. Salvos 8. Salvo interval 2 seconds. Press the button to begin the automatic dispense. We are now in external view to see how the auto dispense looks. Note the longer interval between salvos. You can interrupt the auto dispense by powering off the countermeasures dispenser. Do it now, before you run out of flares. Good. Now power on the CM dispenser and then select Bay 1 to prepare for releasing chaff in case a SAM is fired upon us. The red received light is now lit, and the audio PRF warning can be heard. This means an enemy radar nearby is tracking an aircraft, not necessarily ours. Adjust the PRF volume to your liking. Note that we do not know yet the direction of the threat. The red SAM light is now on and the missile warning can be heard. Look around and try to locate the telltale white smoke column that a SAM produces. Once the origin point of the SAM can be seen, turn the aircraft to the right until your left wingtip is pointing in the launcher direction. This maneuver is called beaming the threat. Note that banking your aircraft may interrupt briefly the RWR signal. Turn the ECM knob to the repeat position to activate the radar jammer. Once the missile is closer, press Q to manually release chaff to confuse the missile. You only have 30 chaff, use them sparingly, as more than one SAM may be fired upon us. Another missile has been detected, repeat the same sequence. Establish the direction of the threat. Place that point on our beam. Release chaff once the missile is near. Another missile has been detected, repeat the same sequence. Establish the direction of the threat. Place that point on our beam. Release chaff once the missile is near. Another missile has been detected, repeat the same sequence. Establish the direction of the threat. Place that point on our beam. Release chaff once the missile is near. Another missile has been detected, repeat the same sequence. Establish the direction of the threat. Place that point on our beam. Release chaff once the missile is near. Another missile has been detected, repeat the same sequence. Establish the direction of the threat. Place that point on our beam. Release chaff once the missile is near. It seems that the enemy SAM battery has fired all of its ready missiles. The SA-2 has a reload time of 45 minutes, so they won't be able to shoot again on a long while. Head back to waypoint 3 and turn the ECM knob back to receive, as the repeat position has our aircraft emitting signals unnecessarily. You have accomplished the mission's goals. Press spacebar if you want to exit the mission now. Backspace if you would like to practice the flight back to our home airbase and land there. OK, proceed towards waypoint 3, D2 on the nav computer. Let's enter the coordinates for waypoint 4 of our flight plan, onto the D1 position of the navigation computer. Set the nav to D1. Enter the following coordinates. Latitude: 45 degrees 04 minutes north. Longitude: 37 degrees 27 minutes east. Press spacebar once they have been entered. Good. The waypoint 4 coordinates are now stored on D2, and the BDHI needle is pointing towards it. Turn the aircraft towards the needle heading. Once you are set on course to waypoint 4, you can enable the autopilot to ease your workload. With the autopilot enabled, you can now employ the time acceleration features of DCS to shorten this long flight. Use the following keys. Time accelerate, lift control plus C. Time decelerate, lift alt plus C. Time limit, lift shift plus C. Try them now. Unfortunately, the Skyhawk and DCS can't communicate with air traffic control, so you must use the F10 map to be aware of other air traffic that may be flying near Napa. Press spacebar once you have checked the F10 map. You have reached waypoint 4. Reduce speed and altitude. Turn right 90 degrees, towards ANAPA. Since you can't contact ANAPA's ATC to request landing, check the F10 map to confirm there is no other air traffic near the runway. Perform a visual landing. Touchdown. This is taxiway C. Proceed forward to apron 2. Park on spot number 23. Well done, this is spot number 23. You have finished this training mission. Press spacebar to exit the mission.